Welcome to Dose of Social, your recipe for social media success. I'm Lindsay Mauch.
I'm Kayla Pearlstein.
And this is Dose of Social.
So today's episode is going to be a little different. I am actually going to be interviewing Lindsay today on email marketing. So for those of you that are small businesses looking to get into email marketing, looking to improve your email marketing, or if you're a freelancer working with email marketing, Lindsay is a pro and she's going to share some of her insights and expertise.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so on the topic of getting started with email marketing, why is email marketing so important for small businesses?
Yeah, so the biggest reason email marketing is important for businesses is because email marketing is an owned marketing channel. So what I mean by this, and I've been doing digital marketing for a long time now, 20 years to be exact. And these platforms change over time. Social media wasn't even really a big thing when I started working in marketing. And I worked for MySpace back in the day, and MySpace is no longer. So you spend time building your audiences on all these other platforms, and you never know what's going to happen with those platforms. Platforms change over time, but your email marketing is an owned channel because you have that direct relationship with your potential customer and your email subscriber. You have their email address. You can email them. You can have that direct conversation. And the only time it really changes is if someone, maybe they have a work email and they change jobs, or they get rid of their email. But other than that, you've got a pretty good shot of keeping that person on your email marketing list.
Perfect. So what's the first step a small business owner should take to start an email marketing strategy?
Yeah, so the first thing a business owner should do when starting an email marketing strategy is start collecting email addresses. Even if you don't have plans to send to your audience right away, still collect those email addresses. So there's a number of different ways that a business owner can go about doing this. So one is having a sign-up form on your website. So we've all seen them. We go to a website, we get an overlay or a pop-up that shows up with information about subscribing, and maybe there's some sort of incentive to join the newsletter list. That's always a good marketing best practice, is have some type of welcome offer that you offer to your email subscriber. And then the second thing that you can do is make sure that you're converting anyone that you meet into a subscriber. So if you are a business or a brand who attends events, whether those are consumer events or trade shows on the business and professional side, start collecting email addresses. This could be as simple as scanning someone's badge at a trade show event and then later uploading that list into your email database, or collecting business cards the old school way and taking those. There are services that will actually scan business cards that you physically get at trade shows, and then they will automatically put them into an Excel file, and then you can move that file into your email service provider.
Perfect. So let's get into creating effective emails. So what are some of the key elements that make a great email?
Oh, so emails, well, I mean, the best email is the one that converts, right? So what is your goal for email? Are you looking to sell more products through your email? Are you looking to get awareness about something you're doing? Are you looking to get signups for a workshop or an event? So think about what your goal is for email, and your emails can have different goals too. But in terms of best practices for what makes a good email, there's a couple things. So the first thing is you want to have a good subject line, because a subject line is what is going to prompt someone to open your email. So you want to have a really strong subject line. I'm a big fan of A/B testing when it comes to subject lines as well. So A/B testing is where you would take two different options for a subject line and test them against each other and see who wins. So I'm a big fan of testing on the A/B testing side, making sure that you're looking at what types of words or things that you say that get your subscribers to open your email. So being in tune with your open rate and knowing what works for your business is important too. The second thing is making sure that you have good content. And it's not just about having good content, but also being very direct in your communication with your audience. So not necessarily just rambling and then it's like, okay, what was the point of this email? But having a very clear message, a direct call to action. We call this a CTA. So what do you want someone to do after they read your email? So maybe there's a little blurb about a new product that you launched, and then the CTA button can say shop now. So just being very clear, very direct. What do you want someone to do from this email? Or maybe you're posting, or maybe you posted a blog post and you are sending an email to let people know about that blog post. You could have a snippet of the blog post and then the CTA button could say read more.
So going back to subject lines, I know you've recently posted something about this on LTM Digital, but can you share some do's and don'ts from your experience on what maybe you should include in a subject line versus what you shouldn't include?
Yeah, so it's really dependent on the brand. If you are a brand where your subscribers or your customers are really into emojis, go for it. Use emojis in your emails. But if you're a brand where your customers or your subscribers are not into emojis, I would stay away from emojis. I think that emojis can do well in an email if that's who your audience is. Another thing is using all caps or things like an exclamation point, a series of exclamation points. Those can get trapped in spam filters. And while you may use those to say, oh, I'm going to use this, it's going to help me stand out, it oftentimes has the opposite effect that you're looking for.
Really interesting. So is there, and I know this can probably depend on the brand, but is there an ideal length for a newsletter, and what can people do to try and keep their readers engaged? Because I know nowadays people would rather scroll and watch a video than read content.
Yeah, I would say making sure you have no more than like 3 to 4 blocks of content in your email. I would say more than one is always good, because if you can't capture their attention within the first section, you might get it in the second or the third. But you don't want to have the infinite scroll on an email, because if you have that, the likelihood of someone scrolling all the way to the bottom is very low. And I'd rather see a brand take that and send it in a separate email and have more content for the next send than use it all in one shot.
Okay, so let's talk email campaign strategies. So how can small businesses use email to drive sales or to promote their services or products?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the first thing with email campaigns strategies is to have a strategy. So that strategy would be, how often are you going to send to your audience? Having a consistent plan to message your audience on a regular basis. I see a lot of brands, I've worked with these brands in the past, where they have a great email list. They have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people on their email list, and they don't email them. And I just ask them, why? Why are you not emailing these people? This is a warm owned channel that you have access to email people, and you're not doing it. So having a strategy and a consistent plan to message those people weekly. So what types of things can you share in email is another question that I get. Well, what's going on in your business or your brand? What are you focusing on your marketing calendar? Like, what is your social media calendar? What are you promoting that week on social media? There's no reason why you can't mirror the same content that you're publishing on social onto your email in a campaign as well.
So let's talk about the difference between a newsletter and a sales email. What is the difference, and when should you use one versus the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a newsletter I would categorize as something where a business or a brand is talking about the latest happenings. Maybe it's a recap of all the things that they're doing. Maybe it's a blog post they published. Maybe it's a shout out from an influencer. Maybe it's events, upcoming events they have coming up, where there's a series of information, no more than 3 to 4 blocks of content, but it's a lot of different information about what's happening in the business. So a newsletter is something where you're telling your subscribers about what you've been up to and sharing all the great things in your business. A sales email is where you are using email as a marketing channel to directly drive revenue for your business. So that could be a new product launch. If you're launching a new product, you could do an email announcing that product. If you have a sale, you can send an email announcing the sale. Typically, a sales strategy for email campaigns would be sending a series of emails. So your first email is your announcement email, where you're announcing the sale. Then your second email is a follow-up email, where you're following up, letting people know about the sale. And then your third email is your final call, last chance email, where you are letting your subscribers know this is the last chance for you to get this offer. So whenever you have a sale for your product-based business, I highly recommend following this strategy of 3 emails to promote the sale to your audience.
So continuing with best practices, you kind of answered this question, but how often should a small business send emails to their list? And you just talked about 3 for a sales type of email, but maybe overall monthly, how many would you suggest?
Yeah, so what I was talking about with the sale email is that's just a campaign strategy. So you'd send a series of 3 emails, and that could be over 3 days. It could be over 5 days. It would be for whatever the duration of your sale is. So that's up to you and your business to decide. But when it comes to campaign frequency and how often you should be sending to your list, my answer is at a minimum weekly. You want to make sure you are establishing that consistency and regular communication with your audience so that you can continue to build an engaged audience and they expect to hear from you. I see a lot of brands who yo-yo with frequency. And what I mean by yo-yo is they have a list and they're like, oh, I don't have time to send an email this week. And months go by and then they say, wait, I'm having a sale. I'm going to send to my list. And they send an email 4 months after the last time they sent an email. And then what happens is that audience is not used to hearing from you. So what happens with that is your unsubscribe rate tends to be higher. Your list of people who are engaged with your content tends to be lower. And your open rates can be affected, which can impact deliverability for your email. So as a best practice, I always recommend to any brand that we're working with to send emails at least weekly to their audience.
That was a really great nugget of information there.
You're welcome.
Before we dive back in, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our incredible Season 2 sponsor, the Sapphire Suite.
Are you looking for a space that inspires creativity, fosters connection, and supports you in growing your business? Located in the heart of Franklin and Cool Springs, Tennessee, the Sapphire Suite is a co-working space designed exclusively for entrepreneurs and business owners. Whether you need a stylish spot to host meeting, a quiet corner to focus, or a supportive community of diverse thinkers who will challenge and support you, this is the place to be. Subscribe to our newsletter and receive a free day pass to experience our amazing community of business owners for yourself.
This episode of Dose of Social was brought to you by the Sapphire Suite. Thank you so much to the Sapphire Suite for sponsoring Season 2 of Dose of Social.
So what are some common, I guess besides waiting 4 months to send another email, what are some common email mistakes you've seen made, and how can small businesses avoid those?
Oh, yes. Let's talk about those. So one big thing is ignoring segmentation. So you could say to me, Lindsay, I have 500,000 emails on my list. Let's email all 500,000 of them. And I will probably tell you that is not a best practice. And the reason for that is you want to make sure that you are segmenting your audience and your sends based on who's engaging with you. So you may have 500,000 people on your list, and kudos to you. That is amazing. but the likelihood of you emailing all 500,000 people at once in one send is very low. I would not recommend it. It impacts your deliverability, and it can impact your open rate and your ability to get through to email service providers. So what happens is if too many people mark your email as spam or unsubscribe, you will get blocked by Google, by Apple, by Outlook. You don't want that. You want to make sure that your email reaches everyone. So you want to be smart about your segmentation. And this is something we're working with an email marketing manager or agency or partner can really help you navigate your list and understand the best ways to segment. So that's a really common one that I see in terms of emailing is ignoring segmentation. A second one I would say is not having a strong call to action in your email. So not letting people know what they should do, not even having a link in your email. Believe it or not, I've seen that before.
Oops.
The third thing would be inconsistent sending. So we touched on that a little bit earlier, but yo-yoing with your sends, not sending on a regular basis or a regular cadence. And then another one is just not being compliant. So maybe you don't have an unsubscribe link in your email, or you're emailing people that you don't have the consent to email. So one thing that I can tell you right now is a huge pet peeve of mine is if I go and I meet someone at a networking event and they take my business card and they don't send me a follow-up and then they add me to their email list.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, that is not a best practice. The one that's even lower than that is I emailed you for something completely unrelated and you added me to your email list. That is also a no-no. So just because someone emailed you for something doesn't mean that you have the right to add them to your email list. So please be mindful of that. I can't tell you how many times I've had that happen to me where someone's added me to their email list after one conversation and I didn't sign up or consent to receive that type of marketing material from them. So it's just a best practice. Be mindful. If you wouldn't want someone to do that to you, don't do it to them.
So kind of touching more on that, what are your thoughts on businesses that are buying email lists?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a thing. So there will be opportunities for you. Maybe you go to a trade show and the trade show says you can buy a list of all the attendees, 90,000 people for X amount of dollars. Maybe it's like $600. I don't know what the rate is. Don't quote me on that. And a lot of businesses will do that because they want these lists and they want to take advantage. And I think that my answer to this depends on what the list is. So if you're at a trade show and that's your target audience, which is a target audience is something that we address on Dose of Social. If it's a target audience that you're looking to hit, sure, go for it, try it. Send an email to that entire list at once, but then after you do that, you want to make sure that you segment the list. So you get that one chance, so make sure that one email that you're going to send the list is a really powerful one. Buying lists in general, though, don't tend to have the best results. So I would say unless you're super spot on, you're like, I want this list, I generally probably would not recommend doing it.
When is the right time for a small business to invest in email marketing tools or an email marketing specialist?
So I always tell the brands that I work with, and the brands that I work with on the email marketing side are typically direct-to-consumer e-commerce businesses, that they need to have their email plumbing set up when they start. So if they're already an established business, they should have all of their email marketing automations and their funnels already dialed from the get-go. And if they don't, they should hire an expert or an agency to help them with that. So sometimes there are people internally on teams that are staffed to help with email. So that could be a marketing manager. Sometimes it's the CEO, depending on the size of the company. But making sure that you have all your boxes checked on the email side, I personally think it's very helpful to hire an email marketing professional to help you from the start. Even if you're not ready to send regular campaign sends, at least have someone help you get set up properly. And if you decide that you want to send campaigns, that's something that you can do on your own, or you can hire a team to help you with that. So at LTM Digital, we have a lot of email marketing retainer clients who we're developing emails for on a weekly basis, sometimes multiple times per week, that we're sending emails on their behalf. And again, they're typically direct-to-consumer businesses, and we are a Klaviyo agency partner. Klaviyo is an email marketing service provider for direct-to-consumer e-commerce clients. The other thing I just would say about knowing when to hire an email marketing expert is, when is your return on investment going to be there? So I always tell my clients or potential clients, like, hey, we'll send emails and you're going to generate revenue from those emails, but it may not be where you want it to be to start, because we have to start somewhere, especially if you haven't been sending emails. But it can be a viable channel for you. I've had brands that don't send emails, and then they start sending emails once a week, and they've added 20% additional monthly revenue to their businesses just by sending an email once a week. So I think email can be an untapped marketing channel for your business that you should definitely look into.
What is your advice for a company trying to re-engage with a cold email list?
Ooh.
Well, first, can you explain what a cold email list is to our listeners?
Yeah, so a cold email list is an audience who hasn't heard from you. They haven't heard from you in a while. Maybe they haven't heard from you in a year, 2 years. Who knows? There could be a number of reasons why you haven't emailed your audience. So at that point, your audience is essentially cold. They haven't heard from you in a while. So ways to re-engage with that audience. One thing to be aware of is, if you send an email to that entire audience, you are likely to have a higher unsubscribe rate and a lower open rate when you do email them. Now, if your email list is smaller, you may not be impacted by this as much. But if you are someone who has a large list, 100,000, 500,000, 800,000 names, you are going to be impacted by that. So one of the things that I would recommend doing is segmenting that list into smaller groups. So maybe you take that 500,000 list and you break it up into 100,000 segments, and you send the same email to them, but you're sending them into different segments. Maybe you're segmenting by location. If you have the ability to target based on activity, that would be great, but you probably don't because they're cold. So another thing that I would say as a step 2 to that is, when you send your second email to them, don't wait that long. Send it the next week, follow up quickly, but create a segment for bounces. So anyone who bounced or didn't engage with your email the first time, put them into their own segment and exclude them from your send. That will help build your email deliverability and improve the health of your email list. So I would say, if you are doing a cold, you have to go through, this is called the list warming process, by the way. So if you have a cold list and you have to rewarm your audience, these are the ways that I would do it. If you are someone who's been actively emailing, you have a little bit more that you can work with. You can target people based on how many emails they opened in the last 90 to 180 days. But if you're emailing a cold audience, you're not going to have that information.
Okay, Lindsay, so to kind of sum everything up, if you could give one piece of advice to small business owners starting out with email marketing, what would it be?
Start building your list. Start collecting emails and know that you're going to build your list. And it takes time. If you don't have a list right now and you're listening, you're like, oh, I don't have a list yet. Just start building your list. Start building those names, and then decide when the time is right to create a plan to email them. But I wouldn't wait too long.
And what's the most valuable lesson you've learned about email marketing that small businesses can benefit from?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I think the most important lesson that I've learned about email marketing that small business owners can benefit from is the importance of segmentation. So really knowing how to address your audience. If someone is a warmer lead. Maybe there's someone who's opened your email, every email that you've sent in the last 30 days. That person is more engaged. So maybe you send them a more persuasive sales message in your marketing, or you send them an offer to get them to convert into a purchase. So looking at segmentation. But then the second thing I would say for small business owners is the power of automation in your marketing emails. So you don't have to just send campaigns weekly. You can also build email marketing automations into your website and your business so that you're sending emails automatically based on user actions on your website. So the typical ones that you see from an e-commerce perspective are your welcome series, which is, hey, you just subscribed to the email. Thank you so much for signing up. Here's a welcome offer. That welcome offer could be a percentage off your purchase. It could be a free download. Usually it's something. There's usually 3 to 5 emails that we see in a welcome series. So maybe the next day you get welcome email 2, and that's talking about your different products. And then the next day you get email 3, and that's reviews on your product and social proof. So a welcome series can be your best friend for email marketing because it does the work for you. You set it up once, and then you just have to update it over time. Same with an automated message for your abandoned cart or your browse abandonment. So if you add something to your cart on a website and then your kid starts screaming and you run to go see what's going on, you come back and you completely forgot that you had this item in your cart, well, that's cool because we'll follow up with you automatically within an hour with an email suggesting that you come back and complete that purchase. So automations are your friend. I would say the standard automations besides welcome email, abandoned cart, and browse abandonment would also be a thank you or post-purchase flow where you thank someone for a purchase. Maybe you ask them to complete a review or some type of loyalty or rewards program where they share with a friend. So as a small business owner, automations are your friend. If you need to invest in them, hire someone to help you, absolutely do it because it will pay for itself way more than what you invested in it over time.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing all of this information. I hope our listeners found it very helpful. I found it very helpful personally. So thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. I love talking email marketing. If you are a direct-to-consumer email business and you want to learn more about Klaviyo, we'll put some links in the show notes so you can learn more.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks. Ciao.